right, Rachel.
Thanks, David. So we have each arrived this afternoon from different geographies, places, and spaces from which we live and work daily. Knowledge of where we are spatially located and who we are in relation to where we are is a critical step in illuminating that we continue to work and occupy spaces that are still yet inaccessible to Indigenous and original peoples of the land. Today, David and I and our colleagues from Claremont Graduate University are joining you from the city of Claremont, which is part of the greater Los Angeles Basin area and the original homelands of the Tongva people, and shared by the Serrano, Gawia, Gabrielino, Tongva, and Kiz nations. We recognize this land as an expression of gratitude and appreciation and a way of honoring the Indigenous people who have been living and working on the land from time immemorial. I'd like to take a moment to honor the four directions, the original ancestors of this land, as well as the original ancestors of the land from which you are viewing from today. Further, I want to respectfully recognize the lives of enslaved peoples and their descendants, predominantly of African descent, whose stolen labor enriched every aspect of our national infrastructure and institutions. We are grateful for their contributions to the collective benefit of our society and honor them today. And finally, we're indebted to the labor and the laborer, many Black and brown bodies that continue to work in the shadows for our collective benefit.
Great. All right. So today we're going to go over a couple things with you all. We're excited to give you some tips and tricks and guidance when it comes to thriving in graduate school. So we're going to start with understanding your why. And Rachel's really going to walk through some exercises you all can do to help dig deep and make this journey personal. We're going to demystify the graduate journey because it's going to look different for all of you. All of you have different expectations and come with a different type of community or support. And we need to recognize that. We're going to talk about leveraging institutional resources. So we'll highlight those that we have here at CGU, but also have you start thinking about what you need from the space that you're entering whenever you start your graduate program. And then we're going to end with building a community of support. And that's going to be the kind of the thread throughout this presentation today is building community, making sure that you know you're not doing this in isolation. You're going to need strong people by you to support you throughout that graduate journey. So first, as promised, an activity, we're calling our Thrive Circle. So everyone here. So I'm going to drop this link in the chat. Stop share. We're going to reshare and go to a different screen. Give me just a second. All right, so I'm dropping this link in the chat for you all, and we'll reshare another screen. If you all want to go here, we're going to do a little bit of a ranking activity. And you can also scan this QR code. It's going to be on the screen as well. So we've all gotten accustomed and comfortable with the QR codes through the pandemic. But what we're asking you right now is to really think about what you want and the elements that you're going to need to thrive in graduate school. So you're going to be able to rank these choices from least important to most important for you. And what we have are opportunities to present and publish, opportunities to conduct research, establishing a community of scholars, access to academic resources, access to career resources, check-ins at critical points in the semester, access to co-curricular programs, clubs, and organizations, identifying mentors. Oh, it's already changing up on me. Health and wellness services, check-ins at, oh, where else are we going? Other, and if you put other, we would love to know if you drop in the chat what else you're looking for. What's not on this list that you think is something we're missing or would be critical for you to succeed and thrive in graduate school. So I love this because it's allowing us to see it in real time.
That's right. So what's rising to the top, David?
Yeah, identifying mentors is definitely up at the top. Community. I'm glad that you all feel the same way that we do. You need a community. Co-curricular programs, clubs, and organizations. Here we go.
I love this because they're going to get an opportunity throughout the different events at Fall Open House to learn about a lot of different engagement opportunities and co-curricular programs that we offer here at CGU. So this is perfect.
Yeah. Academic resources, career resources. Oh, academic just overtook career. There we go. Opportunities to present and publish. These are great. And thank you, Zach. Accessibility resources is one that he listed as other. So we appreciate that. Definitely right. Cultural and identity resources. Perfect. All right. So we wanted to get an idea of where you are coming into this space and what you think you need as we go through this presentation. We're going to move on to another. So I'm going to deactivate this poll. We're going to go on to the next one. And we're going to build a word cloud together. So you can use this QR code. How would you define success in graduate school? Drop in a few words here. What comes to mind when you think of a successful graduate student or graduate scholar or someone thriving in their program? What does that look like? And what does that mean?
David, is there a different link for this one, or do you prefer
I can get a
the
different
QR
link.
code?
Yeah, I can get a different link. Let me drop this in the chat.
Great. So we got some stuff coming in on the word cloud. Taking care of themselves is how we want to define success. Publishing research, that's an important element of thriving in graduate school.
Sorry, there you go.
Career growth, networking. These are all great indicators of success in graduate school. Publishing research is rising to the top. It's good. Alumni networking. We do have a strong alumni network here at CGU. Exploring your passion. I love that one.
Belonging. That's a great one. And hopefully through this journey, we create some agency. So you feel like you belong, but you also can navigate these spaces and know resources that are going to support you along the way. Vocation. Okay. Hometown feel. I like that. We are a small, private, intimate university here. We're graduate only, which makes us unique. Claremont is very special. It's this little hub right here, about 35 miles east of LA. So we are very hometown feel, I would say.
I also see helping others. I really like that one because at Claremont Graduate University, one of our core sort of visions and missions is to create leaders who are going to go out in the world and affect change in their discipline, in their field. So that's a great one, helping others.
Great. Intersectional work. We have that as well. We are very interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary. So we encourage individuals to kind of blend in and look at and examine things, the intersections. All right, so thank you all for participating. We'll jump back to the presentation now. I'll leave that active, so if you want to drop a few more words in there, feel free, or if you want to just reference back what some of the individuals said, we definitely appreciate that. Okay. And so the first thing we're really going to talk about is understanding your why. So I'm going to pass it to Rachel.
Thanks, David. So the understanding your why is an important element from our perspective in terms of thriving in graduate school. And I think it's something that you have to revisit often throughout your journey. And you're embarking at the beginning of that graduate school journey. At Claremont Graduate University, we really see the process that you're engaged in right now, which is applying to graduate school, integral to your student success journey. So I often talk to prospective students like yourself that what I know for sure is that whenever someone is thinking about applying to graduate school, they are ready for some change in their life. And they usually have a big dream that they hold to themselves quietly and don't often share with others. So I want you to take some time this morning or this afternoon, excuse me, to reflect on what's your dream aloud. You know, when you think about applying for graduate school, what is the dream that you have for yourself 5 years down if you're thinking about applying for a master's degree, or perhaps 8 to 10 years down the line if you're applying for a doctoral program? And I want you to be brave enough to drop that dream aloud into the chat and share with us this community that you're with this afternoon, so you can name the thing that you hope to achieve once you've walked across the stage and you've earned that graduate degree. And it's a good exercise to do now, because if you're working on your application and you haven't started your statement of purpose, we do have a statement of purpose workshop that's part of Fall Open House, both in the virtual environment and also in our event that's on ground on Saturday. And it'd be helpful for you to start thinking about these things because it will help you in writing your statement of purpose. So again, thinking about what's your dream aloud. Do you see yourself becoming a professor in academia? Do you see yourself being a researcher in the public health field? Is your desire to be an elementary school teacher? Do you want to be an active change agent in your community? You know, why are you pursuing this graduate degree? So go ahead and drop your dream aloud in the chat. And then I'm going to go ahead and talk about the other elements of understanding your why. So after you sort of acknowledge that dream aloud for yourself, it's really important to reflect on it. And I tell graduate students that it's something that you do on a semester and yearly basis so that you can sort of hold yourself accountable to the goals that you need to establish for yourself for you to reach that dream aloud. So really it's turning your vision into a reality. And so you have to think about it in a 1 year, 5 year, and 10-year increments, right? And revisiting those on a semester to yearly basis. And I think that sometimes it's really hard with all the busyness that we have in our lives. Some of us work full-time or thinking about being full-time students. You may have family, right? Or your community of friends. And then you just have life in general. And so you have to set timelines to break up those goals into really digestible bite-sized pieces. And one of the things that I know for sure about thriving in graduate school is that you will have to say yes to yourself more often than you might be used to, and say no to the things that are going to prohibit you from reaching your goal based on the timeline that you have for yourself. And in order to do that, you have to develop an action plan. So I tell graduate scholars often that it's getting a system that works for you. It's really exciting because you could use the tools that we have at CGU, like Microsoft Teams, and the different times to platforms that we have to help you with what I call productivity tools to sort of manage your graduate journey and your scholarly life. Or you could be like me and use an old school like paper planner. And that I find that is really useful for me to manage all of the things that I'm trying to do, which is not just coursework. I'm out of coursework now, I'm a doctoral candidate, but also putting in proposals for professional and academic conferences, penning an article, collaborating on professional projects with colleagues, both at school and at work. And then I think the last piece is something that a lot of students don't think about early in their journey, but is really critical to your success, which is to share your goals. And I talk about it in terms of creating a community of academic affirmations, where you create a community of scholars where you check in not just once a semester, but multiple times in the semester to say out loud the things that you're working on and the things you've accomplished, because you want to build that community of support where you feel brave enough and courageous enough to share those goals and how you're working towards those goals. So I just want to read off some of the things I see in the chat about the Dream Alouds, because those get me really excited. I see someone wants to be a researcher in positive psychology. Someone wants to enhance their ability to be an advocate in healthcare, such a critical role right now. To work in the college access sector. I see that, Kathy, that's really exciting. Research cognitive processes in mixed reality environments. These are all great Dream Alouds. I want to become a researcher, Noemi, in economics and connect with other researchers to share friendship and ideas. And Noemi, this is a good place to start that, making connections towards your research. So thank you everybody for sharing your dream aloud, and keep dropping those in the chat.
All right, so we're going to move from that understanding your why to kind of breaking down and demystifying the graduate journey. So first, we have to understand that there are going to be opportunities along the way, things that are going to really combat your student success throughout this journey. And we've listed some here, but these by no means are the end all be all, but just some common themes that we find students really encounter in the graduate journey. So maybe it's academic, you're seeking support, you're trying to reach these milestones we talk about in a timely way, or the time to degree. Each of you have a timeline, right? Rachel just talked about establishing timelines and goals. And maybe you come in and you want to get the degree done or finish coursework in 2 years, but now it's taking 4. Financial, Graduate school is an investment in yourself and in your future. You will hear that time and time again, and it is true. So tuition and fellowships or any hardships that come up along the way. It's also a commitment. Many people come to this space already working professionals. They have families, they have partners, and they have a whole life outside of school. So returning back to this space and learning how to integrate your academic self with your personal and professional self takes time. And you have to really work at that. Equity. So here we're talking about support systems or allyship and advocacy. Many people come here and if they feel lost or they're afraid to speak up when they do need help because they feel like I'm a professional, I'm a graduate student, I should be able to do this. I don't need to ask for help, but you do. All of us need support along the way. And that leads us to that last one. That could be a lack of peer connection. You know, oftentimes it goes back to that commitment. We have other obligations. So we come, we go to class and we leave, but make connections with peers because those peers are going to be leaders in your field or people that can advocate for you down the line, affinity groups, and then also mentorship and sponsorship. And then you have to personalize this journey. And this is why we wanted to start the presentation with understanding your why. Because you have to revisit those goals and align those with your semester, your year, the academic year, and your program. Each of you are going to get milestone maps that kind of outline the expectations for your program. So use those when you're looking back at your goals and setting those timelines and breaking those things into bite-sized pieces and developing your action plan. You also want to understand how you're going to get there. What do you need to reach those goals? And what kind of experience do you want when you're here? These are all ways that you'll thrive in these spaces. And then who? And this is where we come back to community. What does your support or community look like? And what's their purpose? Maybe you come in and you already have a mentor, but you don't have peer relationships or relationships with individuals in a field that you want to get into. So understanding who you need in your circle to really get you to and through the program. And then recognize that the journey is different for everyone. One thing that's great about CGU is we are graduate only, but your courses you're going to be sitting in with students that are master's students, doctoral students, each coming with a different breadth of knowledge or experience. And what I have here is a simple timeline, right? Because it is different, but each of you are going to have a first day. Each of you are going to have the end of year one. Each of you will have end of coursework. And for some, that's it. That's the end all be all. That leads to graduations. And for others, that's the whole start of a whole new journey, which is post coursework. And then each of you are going to reach graduation. Those are the common elements and common themes, but the way you get there is vastly different. It looks different for everyone. And we enter these spaces with different experiences and different support systems and are looking for something different when we get here.
And this visualization is intentionally not linear. It's not a point A to a point B because that's not what the graduate school journey looks like. It's very individualized, as David has said. And he referenced what's called a milestone map. So as a new student at CGU, you'll get a so essentially a guide for your particular school, degree, and concentration that will sort of map out the different milestones that will be critical to your graduate journey. But what I want to say on this slide is that know that those are academic milestones, but there are other milestones that you should be thinking about that are going to be critical to thriving in graduate school, like building a community in your first semester. Not being afraid to get outside of your box and not only create friendships within your academic discipline, but building community outside of your school and across the institution. Thinking about the kinds of academic and personal, professional associations that you want to connect with. Dreaming aloud about those conferences that you want to present at. Connecting with the faculty who you've been looking on our website and sort of dreaming aloud that that's that faculty I want to be my mentor. So how do you make those connections? I mean, that's what graduate school and thriving is all about. It's not just the things that are happening within the classroom, it's also the things that happen outside the classroom.
And then you have to celebrate. And this is something that Rachel is really big on, because we just talked about all these milestones and you're reflecting back on all of these different goals that you've set for yourself. And when you achieve those goals, when you reach something, a milestone, the end of a semester, the end of a year, celebrate yourself, applaud yourself, support yourself, be your biggest advocate. That will help you thrive in these spaces. And that can be something as simple as looking at the syllabus and saying, I can't believe I have to do a final project that's going to result in a 25-page paper and a presentation at the end of this semester. And when that's my challenge this semester. But when I finish that and submit it and get it all done, I'm going to celebrate that I was able to accomplish that.
So let's start this now. Let's start today, because I think sometimes we have to practice what celebration looks like. So if you go to the reactions in the bottom of Zoom, you should see the emoji, the celebration emoji, and everybody go ahead and click that, because they'll want you to celebrate showing up to this session today. Give yourself a round of applause and celebrate that you showed up. And when this goes, so the next thing I want to do is, for all of you who have submitted your application already to CGU, I want you to click the reaction of the clap. Clap it up for yourself. Someone did a laughing emoji. I like that. I see you. I see you, Richard. Okay. And for those of you who are working on your application, give a thumbs up, because these are all moments to celebrate, right? The journey of graduate school doesn't begin when you register for your first class. This journey starts now.
All right. But thriving also means utilizing tools and resources to really support you throughout this process. So, being the Office of Student Engagement, we're going to start off with us as one of these resources here on our campus that supports graduate students. And we come in at sort of three critical areas. We support scholars early in their journey. It's one reason why we are here today, Fall Open House, talking with you all as prospective graduate students, supporting an admissions event. We want to help you connect to those admissions representatives to learn more about the program, answer all those application questions, and go through that entire process. And we want to be an ambassador for CGU and for the academic units that we represent here on our campus. We also want to ensure your academic success. We want you to come in, and we want you to be able to achieve those goals you set and the timelines that you've established. And we do that by overseeing some co-curricular programming here on campus. We support our first year students with the program we've developed that Rachel will talk about a little bit later on. We pre-advise students. So we understand that you're coming into a brand new space. Just because you've navigated an undergraduate experience and undergraduate college doesn't mean that you now understand what it is to be at CGU. So we want to get you acclimated to all the tools, resources, your student portal page, deadlines that we have here, so you can understand what's going to make you successful. And we want to connect you to other resources we have, not only through our office or here on campus, but across our consortium. So we are part of the Claremont colleges, so 5 undergraduate campuses, 2 graduate schools, and we have some shared services and affinity groups that our students have access to as well. And then we hope that we elevate your graduate student experience. So we work in partnership with different offices to host programming or in the academic units to really enhance what you all get from the classroom and bridging kind of theory and practice. And we want to build a community of support for you as graduate scholars and create those spaces so you all can join us and hopefully mingle with peers, but also share your research and where you want to go. And how do we do that? Well, we do co-curricular programming centered within each of the academic units. So you'll see here, I have a picture of a flyer that one of my colleagues, Shellen, who works closely with our School of Community and Global Health, hosted a fall lunch and learn. This is an example of some of the types of programming our office does. We really want you all to come in and engage in topics within your field, mix and mingle with faculty or engage with their research. Do some meet and greets so that you all can meet each other and get to know each other a bit better. We also try to, as Rachel mentioned earlier, talking about conferences, proposal submissions. We want to make sure you understand the professional organizations and associations within your field, because those are another way that you can leverage yourself and get your research out there. And then we've also established a Realizing Equity Research Symposium. So this happens in the spring. Our first inaugural one was last year in the spring. It was really successful. And this allows you all an opportunity to showcase your scholarly work. When you enter graduate school, you are now scholars within your field, and you're trying to master those areas. And we will work with you through the process so that you understand what it means to submit a conference proposal or develop an abstract. And then we host this in-house so that we hopefully can break down some of those access barriers to conferences so you can submit your work, and it can be work in progress. I think that's one thing a lot of graduate students are like, it's not done yet. I haven't done all the research. It's not complete. It's okay. Work in progress or completed, and be a part of our annual research symposium.
Again, you've heard David and I talk about the importance of building community outside the classroom. And these are just two examples of the types of programming that you can find across the institution. And we also have affinity centers that we share with the Claremont colleges as well. But the first will be critical to all of you, which is the Flourish in Your First Year program. And this was a program we launched over 3 years ago because we really wanted to make sure that our first year students would flourish throughout their first semester, which is a critical semester in your graduate journey, but also throughout your first year. And so we have over 20 workshops and sessions that our first year students can participate in right after new student orientation and throughout their entire first year journey. That's really devised to allow our first year students to add tools to your tool belt, because I'm a firm believer that if we admit you as a graduate scholar to our community, you are already bringing knowledge and tools that you have with you. And we're just going to add some more tools to those tool belts. So it's things like perhaps you might have some anxiety about how do you begin having an advising session with your assigned academic advisor. How do you create that mentoring relationship? Many of you have indicated that finding a mentor or someone who's going to guide you throughout your career is really critical to you. So we help give those tools early on. Or maybe you see the syllabus in the first 2 weeks and you're getting a little anxiety about all the different readings and assignments that are given to you. How do you manage that? How do you manage your calendar? And so we do different workshops and sessions where you can add tools to your tool belt. And then one of the things that's really critical to us at Claremont Graduate University are 3 values of diversity, equity, and inclusivity. And so we intentionally have a program called Thrive for our graduate scholars of color. That's for students across the graduate journey, and they can drop in anytime, whether they're a first year student or a 5th year doctoral student. We really want to foster a community for our graduate scholars of color. We want them to understand how they can foster and create inclusive academic and co-curricular experience, not only as students, but when they become scholars in their field. And we want to provide support early and throughout their academic journey.
So those are some examples of resources that we directly oversee, but those are not all that we have to offer or all that any institution has to offer. So what I put here on this slide was maybe you come in and you need help researching topics for class or independent research, or you have a dissertation idea, but you just are not as comfortable with research. We have the Claremont College's library and scholarly librarians there that you can make appointments with that are going to help you navigate your field and those databases and just uncover and discover research. Maybe you need support completing lit reviews, formatting papers, or even just developing an outline. Again, things in progress, doesn't have to be completed. Then we have a Center for Writing and Rhetoric, where you can either submit things electronically via Dropbox, or you can schedule appointments with our writing consultants, and they can help you with any of the work you're doing in the classroom. Maybe you want to discover communities of scholars with shared experiences, interests, and or backgrounds. So you heard Rachel and I talk about affinity groups. We have a queer resource center. We have an Office of Black Student Affairs. We have Chicano Latino Student Affairs. So these spaces where you can step outside of CGU's boundaries and mix and mingle with others and talk more about your diverse experiences that you brought with you to this place. Curating your professional portfolio alongside your academic self, that's career development. And we have a career development office here that's going to support you from day one. Opportunities to engage in pedagogical training and methodologies. Many of you here want to go into academic careers. You hope to be faculty members one day. And that means learning how to develop certain portfolio pieces, diversity statements, teaching philosophies. We have Preparing Future Faculty. That is actually a free program for our graduate students here so that you get that type of training. You want to engage in practical hands-on work to further bridge theory and practice. I think we have a lot of research assistantships or graduate assistantships that come up along the way, sometimes from the get-go, sometimes innately as you go through the program. Connect with your faculty. They're your biggest advocates there and can support you in finding and securing some of those. And then assistance with grant writing and fellowship applications. We actually have a student grant and award initiative where there's a team of individuals putting on workshops that can help you build this skill set, right? It's a skill. It takes time to identify other sources of aid, apply to those, and secure grants to conduct your research. So again, these are just examples of the resources we have here and some of what you all may need when you enter into this space.
And then one of the, it's last, but it's not the least important. I think it's the first thing that we should all be thinking about when we think about thriving in graduate school, which is our care and wellness. And so when you're a student here at CGU, you'll hear this often from the student support specialists and my team in the Office of Student Engagement and many of our colleagues across the institution. But we want you to remember to take mindfulness breaks and practice self-care throughout your journey. One of the things that I practice on a weekly basis is I have a academic scholar partner that I do work with, and I take a walk with her every Thursday afternoon after work. And we talk about our academic work, things that we're working on in the future. We have some ideas that we sort of bounce off of each other, and that's sort of my wellness practice. But we do have a lot of support services at Claremont Graduate University and shared resources that if you're sort of struggling about what does that look like, what does self-care look like, what might mindfulness or wellness look like, there are different workshops and sessions that are available to you. One is the Monster Counseling and Psychological Services. And I share some of the interesting and I think innovative workshops that they have, which is they have one for a procrastination nation. So if you happen to be somebody who procrastinates from time to time, go ahead and raise your hand and know that this might be something that would be of interest to you to help you manage that procrastination, but also not feel like you're alone, because they do circles of sessions for procrastination nation members. And then you want to do things that make your heart sing and bring joy into your life. And I don't think we often talk enough about the importance of seeking joyfulness in the graduate school journey, because it's not all work. There should be play. And one of the things I really do enjoy about the Claremont Graduate University and the neighboring community is that we do have a lot of cafes and restaurants. But also in this virtual environment that we're now navigating, there's a lot of support groups and student life clubs and orgs, and we're doing a lot of things in the hybrid space. And so know that whether you are at the time where you want to come to campus or you want to be in the virtual space, there are resources. And then the last thing is recognizing when you need help and reaching out to those in your community. And I call that the community of care. And that's not just your scholar peers or your friends, but it's also the staff here at CGU and faculty. Know that when you make the decision to come to CGU, we are committed to your success. And but I also want to empower you to say that as you go along this graduate journey, know that there is a sense of agency that I want you to own, right? So even as you're working on your application and you're feeling some anxiety about that statement of purpose, reach out to your assistant director of admissions, show up to the workshops and activities that are being offered through the Office of Admissions so that you can reduce that anxiety as you're going along this graduate journey.
All right, so as promised, we did some interactive things at the beginning. We're nearing the end. We're going to do a community Q&A where it's an opportunity for you all to ask, share, and learn from each other. So I'm going to stop sharing so we'll see all our little squares. And what I really want to do here is allow myself and Rachel to give a little bit of background information. I think Rachel, her past and her experience is just a wealth of knowledge so that you understand the journeys that we took to get to our spaces, and allow you all that are comfortable either dropping in the chat or hearing out loud to do so. So before I entered into this space, I actually worked for over 12 years in the retail management industry. I did not come to CGU with a higher ed background. I'm now in my master's program in education, doing student affairs and educational justice. So I did a career pivot. I sat down, I dreamt aloud. I set some goals for myself, and I looked at what are the skills that I had, what skills do I need, and what can transfer into a different industry. And I was really able to pivot. And I'm thankful every day that CGU saw that, and that I was able to sell myself in a way that can connect with students and bring my customer service background into this field. And so all of you, some of you may be sitting there thinking, well, I don't have any experience in this field, or I want to transition to something completely different. And how do I do that? Really encourage you to sit and look at the skill set that you've developed in any industry and what that new field is going to require, and where is the overlap in the alignment. So that's a little bit about me. I'm also from Arkansas. I'm not a native Californian, so I've moved around a couple times. I lived in Oklahoma for a minute, then Texas, and then made my way here. I believe in transitions. I think that really does help you expand and think big. But I just want to share a little bit about myself, and I'll pass it to Rachel to share a little bit about her professional self.
Thanks, David. So for my colleagues and the students that have an opportunity to meet me, they know that I'm someone who is mission driven, and I could talk a lot about my professional trajectory, but one of the things that's sort of core to the decisions that I make about how I navigate professionally and academically is my commitment to social justice and equity. And when I think about my professional career, the thread through all the different sort of pivots I've made has been sort of that mission. And I consider myself somebody who has transitioned across the educational spectrum, and feel really honored to have worked not only in K-12 education, nonprofit. I've had my own research consulting firm, applied research consulting firm, and was in higher education, and then had the great opportunity to pivot back into higher education. And I'm a doctoral candidate in the School of Educational Studies at Claremont Graduate University. So as you guys go along your graduate journey, and you're getting near and working on your proposals and defending, we can have a really great conversation about writing and the art of writing. But what I know for sure is that one of the things that I'm a huge advocate for is higher education. And I don't think, that's why I always talk about dreaming aloud, because I think that all of us come with our fears and anxieties and things that may be apprehensive for us to take the next step. And I want to say, don't move with a place of fear, move with a place of purpose. And I think that a lot of the different sessions and activities that we have planned for you all in the next 3 days or across the next 3 days is to help you move with a sense of purpose. So I'll go ahead and pause here because I want to allow for some time for you all to ask any questions that you may have about our institution or about graduate school that David and I or our colleagues can answer.
Who's going to be brave? And use the chat. We can read things. Oh, Richard, go for it.
Is there a mascot?
We're the flame. Yeah.
I thought it was the flame. I was okay. 3 little flames, 1 little light. I just wanted to ask. I was like, wondering.
It's the flame, and you're gonna carry that flame forward, right? Once you leave here.
Very cool. Very cool.
I have a question. From my understanding, the spring will be virtual. I was wondering if there's any beyond spring. Has that been decided yet? Like whether classes will be virtual or in person?
That's a great question. So what I will say is spring actually will be, like I said, we're embracing a connected campus. So we actually have 7 different modalities. And Andrea, what I'll ask is if you go to the registrar's website and drop in the modes of instruction so everyone can click on that site and read through them. And then if you also want to drop in the CGU Spring course catalog so that everyone can look through there. But we are expanding what we do. I would say right now we're mainly virtual this fall, but in the spring you're going to see a lot more in-person or hybrid. So you'll see hybrid sync, hybrid concurrent, online sync, online concurrent. So what that means is you'll be in the 2-hour, 50-minute time block concurrently, everyone together. Some will require a asynchronous hour in there instead. So good descriptions, match up those descriptions from the registrar website and then look at the course catalog for your different field. Great question.
David, I've got a great question here in the chat. How big are the classes?
Ooh, so that also depends on your program, but typically I would say you're in classes with anywhere from 10 to 15 students. It is a very intimate seminar style. That also means that faculty know you by name. They recognize you when you enter into the space. They get to know you and your work. They expect everyone to speak up. So that's one thing I always say, like, engage now, because when you get into those classes, they're going to force you to speak up a little bit and share out. A lot of times you'll facilitate some discussions at least once in the semester, and you'll really get to know your peers. So that community piece is really important, but having a small class size typically helps you all kind of exchange numbers and make some connections. I'm seeing a lot of questions about like acceptance. What I would say there is connect with your admissions representative. That is the session that they're going to be hosting next, where you can drop in and ask some questions. Those are perfect for those because they're directly connected to those programs and understand the faculty in there and working with you on your application. So I'm going to leave that to those experts and my colleagues there.
Yes, that session is going to be coming up in just a little while at 3 p.m. Pacific time. So you can connect with your personal admissions representative, and a lot of these specific questions you have about, natures of that application or acceptance rates, multiple degrees at a time, can definitely get answered there. I did see one great question as well here for either Rachel or David from Marcus about how many percentage of our students roughly are working full time. And maybe we could talk a bit about how students who are working tackle their graduate load.
Yeah, that's a great question.
So I'll jump in here, David, and say that it really varies from program to program. But for example, in the School of Educational Studies, it happens to be that many of those master's and doctoral students in that school in particular are working professionals. So they've made the decision to continue being practitioners in their field while pursuing perhaps their master's or a PhD. But we have seen an increase over the last 10 years of students who are full-time within their profession and full-time students, but know that that will look different because some of the programs do have preference that their students be full-time students and perhaps part-time student workers. So, and I think that's a really important question to also speak to your admissions representative about, because you'll see that when you review our schedule of courses, that it'll give you a glimpse of, when are classes typically offered for your particular program and concentration.
I see another one about preparing future faculty here that is open to both master's and doctoral students. As I said, it's no additional cost for you to go through that program. It's a sequence of 2 courses, 0 units. You'll take one semester, one the next, and develop a portfolio. What I would encourage you to do is join the resource fair, because we'll have representatives from that program that can talk more in depth, but you do earn a certificate saying that you are certified to do college level teaching. That's attached to your transcript as well. And you can take that anywhere. I know I see a lot of people from out of state interested in us, so that is not state specific to California. You can take that and say, hey, I earned this and I have these materials. I know how to facilitate classroom conversation and discussion.
Yeah, that's a question I had. So the doctorate program, do you offer teacher assistantships?
In some cases, yes. It depends on the program. There are some TA opportunities. It depends. Just as Rachel was saying with student worker opportunities and graduate assistantships, because we are graduate only, that is not innately built into the program, because you're only in courses with master's and doctoral students. We do not have undergraduate students on our campus for you to teach. So that's not something that's built in like other traditional PhD programs.
In particular, the education department, that's what I was kind of asking for.
Yeah, I would say there are opportunities. We've had students come in and they a lot of times will look at the local community colleges in our area or other institutions, and they've been able to secure some teaching assistantships, but it doesn't happen on our campus. Perfect. I'm going to share this before we end. Keep dropping in any questions, but I want to make sure you all have our contact information as we move forward. So again, my name is David Estudiante, and I'm joined today by Rachel Camacho. We are from the Office of Student Engagement. And I know Rachel's going to drop her LinkedIn, I believe, but we really do look forward to helping you thrive in graduate school. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, student.engagement@cgu.edu, or that is our office line here. We are in office. I am almost every day. So feel free to give me a call if you want to follow up with anything else. Our office will also be at the virtual resource fair. So you can stop by that and ask any other questions about any of the programs that you heard us present on today. I really do thank you all. And if you want to continue to ask questions, we will sit here. We know we have 10 more minutes and see if we can't get anything else for you all. But what I will say before we conclude, and we just open it up for the remaining questions you all have, is we talked a lot today about community. And the community starts now. You all are applying or have submitted or looking to start a graduate program. And so the best way to start building community is to really start to connect with others who are interested in the field you're about to embark on. So I encourage you all to meet with your admissions representative and develop a relationship and start building a community where they're involved in it, and also get to meet other prospective students who are interested in the research or field that you're about to go into. So make sure you attend that 3 p.m. session so you can have that dialogue with others, and hopefully you leave with another peer's contact or name, and you all can keep in touch, and you'll definitely get connected to your admissions representative who can support you all throughout the way.
I saw a great question in the chat that Heidi was able to get to, but David and Rachel, perhaps maybe you could speak on our Parent Scholars Group for a little bit.
Yeah. So one of the things that our office does frequently, and it's one of the reasons why I put this on the ranking system, is we believe in checking in with students via phone outreach. So it is not uncommon for you to get a phone call from us. That's through the application and phase, but also once you begin here, because we want to understand your experience and help elevate that. We can't do that if we don't hear from you all as you're going through the program. And one of the things we heard when we embarked on a call campaign during the pandemic, we called every student here on CGU campus, was parents were having a particular tough time. They're both now trying to be students themselves and then help teach and navigate that for their children. They felt very isolated. And so a couple colleagues in our office said that we wanted to start a Parent Scholars Group. And they did that. They invited people into community. It took off. They invited people from our Montessori Counseling Psychological Services, some others in the program that were parents that were further along, already working on proposals or defending their dissertation, to give them tips and tricks on how they navigated. And now they've established a club as well. So a Parent Scholars Club, where they can continue to build community with both new students that come in and continuing students who want to enter into that space. So just an example of how we really do use your voice and what you tell us that you need to implement practices here on campus. Perfect.
Okay. I'm seeing a lot of questions that are still fairly specific to individual programs. So I really do want to invite you to join us at 3 p.m. to meet with your personal admissions representative. There are plenty of admissions representatives actually here joining us right now. So they may have even been chatting you or responding to you right now. But at 3 p.m. we'll have our coffee chat style sessions. You can drop in at any time between 3 and 4 and meet with us and ask questions about our programs. So we could speak, to some of your questions about PhD advising and things like that for each program. But great questions. We will get to them. We will see you at 3 p.m.
David and I look forward to seeing all of you who are joining us this Saturday in person. And for everyone else, we hope to see you at New Student Orientation next year. Thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm going to put in the chat one more time the link that Andrea shared at the beginning of this session. That's the information that you can see for the rest of the day and the rest of the week. It's just our open house events and what's going on with open house for the rest of this week. So I look forward to seeing all of you at 3 p.m. today.